Good afternoon,
Andrea Sanchez Muniz.
Present.
Marianne Valdez Hernandez.
Here.
Fernanda Cardenas is absent. Michelle Douglas Robledo.
Present.
Burke Quintanilla.
Here.
Beth Graham.
Here.
Judy Cruz is absent. Jaspreet Kaur.
present.
A quorum is present.
Thank you. Let us start with the silent meditation. Bring our focus towards the work that we have ahead of us for this evening. Approval of minutes. The approval of the May 27 meeting was sent to you ahead of time, and it's also in your packet, and I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Second, any questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Next, public comments. I was not notified of any public comments, but I'm just going to pause for a moment and see if.
Nobody signed up for public comment.
Okay, thank you. And so we'll start with our first agenda item, the report from my report. So I participated in the Macrelis Branch Library 60th anniversary. I saw many of you there. That was on June 13th. That was a fantastic ceremony, seeing so many people from the community and, gosh, so many families and kids. It was really amazing. And Pikachu was there, so that made it even, Pikachu and Smarty were there. We should have had like some type of character dance-off, I guess. But it was fantastic. And one thing I want to say, I want to commend you, Secret, on the celebration, because your team did such a nice job of really recognizing the community's needs and how the community uses, how that neighborhood uses the library. I was so impressed with that. The Pokemon Go tournament that they set up, that was awesome. And you could see children and adults of all ages participating in that. So that was really wonderful. And then also the volume of young children that were there with parents, with grandparents, with grand aunts and uncles. You know, I stopped to talk to quite a few of them along with some of my fellow trustees. And it was so nice to hear people saying like, oh yeah, I came and I brought my niece with me and I brought my nephew with me, and that was really awesome. So great job. I also attended the library senior management team meeting, and Sukrit did a wonderful job of presenting his 1 year in director's vision for implementing the strategic plan at SAPL. And last night I attended the Friends of the San Antonio Public Library at the Bookseller. They hosted a speakeasy, and since I see some members of city management here, of Dry Speakeasy. It was fantastic. It was wonderful, lots of poetry, lots of great conversation, and so many great books that turned out to be conversation starters. So congratulations to Liz and to the rest of your team. That was really a wonderful event. I also had the opportunity to attend the executive board meeting for the foundation, and that was a great time. It's always great to visit with the members of the foundation's board because they have so many great ideas and they're just connected to the community in a completely different way. And I just want to encourage all of my fellow trustees, look for opportunities to engage and connect with the foundation and with the Friends of the Library. I encourage all of you to officially become friends as well, but it's such a great opportunity because they have such great connections into other parts of the community that we may not have access to. And then finally, I had an opportunity to visit with the city management team to learn more about the budget development process as we're entering into this trial budget phase. So thank you to Secret Kathy and Mr. McCary for hosting those meetings and just continuing with the transparent conversation about how the budget development process will work. And so next I'm going to start with trustees to my right and ask you for updates regarding library-related activities. We do have a couple of requests for the meeting to be expedited, so I'm just asking in advance for some brevity in your reports today. Thank you.
Very quick report. I went also to the McCreeless anniversary. That was lovely. I visited the Americans in the Holocaust here. It is impressive. If you don't have the opportunity, walk through it. You know, just walk through and absorb it. It's wonderful. Lots going on, mostly at Maury Maverick. We had a little bee incident there, and they were buzzing, and we weren't happy about it. And so they have been removed, and the library is open. It got closed for like a day and a half, so it was kind of a scary thing because there are a lot of bees. But in any case, everything is good there, and that's all I'm going to say.
On June 11th, I attended the facilities meeting virtually. Prior to the facilities meeting, I was briefed by Kathy Donnellan on those items that were pertinent to District 3. And then we were able to discuss them, and I was very well prepared thanks to her. On June 13th, I was at one of my libraries, the Pan American 60th anniversary, and indeed it was fabulous. Got to see lots and lots of folks there. Everyone agreed it was one of the best birthday parties ever. June 18th, I virtually again was able to listen to Eva Balcazar tell her story as a Holocaust survivor. She's just an amazing storyteller, so eloquent, and could remember very, very small details. It was just an amazing recollection. And then at the question and answer, when they asked her about her childhood and her childhood friends, while she was so poised and all throughout the talk, all of that facade fell away. And it just, you could see and feel and hear the pain in her voice, and how it just, an unbelievable atrocity that our country went through. And luckily, we're so fortunate to still have some voices that can tell us, I have eyewitness accounts of what went on, and we need to have that in society. That's my report.
So I was able to attend all my committee meetings, and I also went to McCreeless for the celebration. And again, it was wonderful seeing a lot of children and young adults there, because it makes you feel that, you know, our libraries are going to be in good hands when we're all older. So that was refreshing, and I'm doing my due diligence by reposting as much stuff as I can on social media of all the events going on, because there's a lot going on right now.
I also attended the summer reading program kickoff at Encino, and I'd just like to add my compliments. It was a really fun event. I was sorry I didn't come ready to jump in the bubbles, but oh well, next year. I was also at the McCreeless 60th anniversary celebration. Again, it's so great to see the communities turn out for these library events, and it just shows how much difference we make to the city. And then last night, I was at the Friends Speakeasy at the bookseller. It wasn't completely dry. We had root beer and ginger ale, so, and water, and coffee, thanks to the people who are supplying the bookseller with their bookseller coffee. And I would like to just compliment the Friends and Ben DeRocher, the bookseller manager, on the difference they have made to that space. Those of us who have long memories of what a disaster the bookseller sometimes was, and it could be a little dangerous to walk in the back rooms because the box is falling on you. They are just doing so much to really turn that into an impressive retail space and someplace you'd like to spend some time and look around and you can find things.
Hello, everyone. I attended the ad hoc bond committee meeting. I also attended our facilities meeting. Today, I attended, they had a great jazz performance at Memorial. Freddie Hudson was out there, and it was incredible. It was a whole hour long, celebrating Juneteenth, and the whole community came out for it. It was very nice. And then Las Palmas has an African-American heritage exhibit going on now, and it's also very, very nice, celebrating Juneteenth. And that's it.
Good afternoon. I attended my assigned committee meetings. I also attended the McCreeless Library's anniversary, which was just really exciting. They had so many children that I was very happy to see enjoying the sites, getting their face painted, taking pictures with Smarty and what's the yellow one called? Pikachu. I don't know. Pikachu. My granddaughter's 32, so I don't know anything about those things anymore. And I also attended, last night I attended the Carver Branch Library's public art update on their design. And it was a community meeting. The community was involved. And there was a great discussion, great suggestions, and I was very pleased because it always goes well when someone can express what their feelings are about an issue that can be, it can help the project very well. So that's about it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's been a rough one for me, been traveling all over the place. Since the last time we met, I was able to visit with all my libraries, Parman, Brook Hollow, and Encino, just to have a look around. Things moving right along. Folks seem to be happy, and the community well-served. I was able on my travels to visit the Grass Valley, California main public library, which was stepping back into history itself. I think that San Antonio does a very good job in comparison to scale for what the smaller towns in a rural place like Grass Valley are doing, serving the community. And it drove home the point that we are part of the heart and soul of San Antonio, just like that public library is for that small community. I was able to attend the San Antonio Public Library assisted sponsorship of the Americans and the Holocaust. So I thought that was very well done, very hard-hitting, and the panels from that exhibit were worth several books that you could absorb the information in 30 minutes and the importance of that event to world history and how it changed the course of nations. I was also able to visit the Lyndon B. Johnson LBJ Library in Austin, attending an American Legion Boys State event, Legion Day, and I don't think we could ever seduce the National Archives to send us documents, but nonetheless, I think San Antonio, we do a very good job in community outreach and bringing history to life as it affected our nation. And I'm looking forward to the Bexar County Frontiers of Change exhibit and seminar on the 31st of July. And I like the cross-pollination that happens, the information share between SAPL and then the other entities in government to outreach to the community, particularly during the summer, where students, if they have an interest in this thing, can reach out and get this free education provided in a timely fashion. That's it.
Next, we have our director's report, and before we go into our director's report, just a reminder that we are being live streamed, and also to turn your mic on when you're making comments or updates. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and Trustees, and staff and public. On June 3rd, SAPL had a media event at Encino Branch Library where we launched Summer with SAPL summer reading program. This event promoted the library system's lineup of our summer programs, summer reading programs, and there were lots and lots of fun activities happening across the city at our locations right now. On June 4th, San Antonio Spurs organization held a ribbon-cutting ceremony at the Denver Heights Community Center, and they unveiled a redesigned gym. They provided new technology enhancements like 3D printers, some video gaming consoles, TV screens, video gaming chairs. It's a beautiful lounge over there right now, and it's called Spurs Legacy Lounge. There was a ceremony which took place at the gym itself. Our mayor was there, council member, District 2 council member Jalen McKee Rodriguez, he was there, and lots of city officials, including our city manager, Eric Walsh. And on June 13th, the McCreelys Branch Library celebrated the 60th anniversary. Like many of you mentioned and many of you were there, it was a fun event. Our board chair, Jaspreet, and our District 3 trustee, Josie Martinez, they both spoke and made remarks to public, which were well received. On June 18th, I, along with our Holocaust Memorial Museum of San Antonio director, Leslie Davis Met, opened this Americans and the Holocaust Traveling exhibit here at Central, which is being displayed at a gallery right next door. And this exhibition was made possible by a grant from American Library Association and also American Holocaust Memorial Museum. We were one of the 50 recipients in the country for this traveling exhibition. This exhibit is on display here at Central through July 25th. And our Adult Services Coordinator, Morgan Yoshimura, who is here, and she will be delivering a presentation about this later this evening. Our city manager presented the city trial budget to the city council on June 18th, and we will keep the board updated on the fiscal year 2027 budget development and budget development process. Yesterday, again, as Joanne Harris mentioned, the Carver Branch Library Public Art Final Design meeting was held at Denver Heights Community Center. The Department of Arts and Culture and their staff members and selected artists presented their final artwork designed, and they still gathered some community feedback. I am personally seeing the work from these artists evolved. I remember the first meeting, then the second meeting, and then the yesterday, and these artists are amazing. They are taking community input, and then they are making changes to the design, which is already looking brilliant. And there were almost everybody who was there. I can say almost like 100% people. They were very happy with the artists, very happy with the art. So it's again thanks to all of you for the support to the community. Again, the Department of Arts and Culture, in partnership with our library, will host a community meeting on June 30th at Las Palmas Branch Library. And this meeting is to gather stories and memories about the library and the surrounding community, where San Antonio Poet Laureate Dr. Carmen Tafaya has been commissioned to create a poem for permanent installation at the library. So this community input will help shape the poem, which will celebrate the people and the organization that helped establish the Las Palmas Branch Library on the west side. The Cody Branch Library in District 8 will temporarily close on July 5th for a complete HVAC system replacement. And this is part of our fiscal year 2024-2025 capital improvement project. And this project is expected to last for 6 to 7 months. But good news is, there's an interim library services will be available right across the street at our Savior Lutheran Church. And we are so thankful for them for providing this space for the library, and we will keep you all updated when this place opens. I believe everybody will be excited and happy, almost just like what the Carver Branch Library at Denver Heights Community Center. And I'm so proud of our team, and many of those members are here today, that we have launched a Wi-Fi hotspot lending program to expand broadband access and to advance our digital equity in our community. Now, this pilot program is sponsored by, or is made possible by the grant from Methodist Healthcare Ministries of South Texas. Now, due to their generosity, we are able to provide 1,000 free Wi-Fi hotspots in our community. These devices are available for checkout right now at 10 of our locations. And yesterday, I also had pleasure of attending our Friends of San Antonio Public Library's Speakeasy event at the Bookseller. So thank you and congratulations to Liz and Friends of San Antonio Public Library for making that event, fun event possible. And thank you to our Assistant City Manager, David McCary, who is here with us this afternoon, for your continued support of the library. And with that, I conclude my verbal report. If you have any questions regarding this verbal report or the report which you have in your binder, I'm happy to answer any of those questions.
Any questions? What is the checkout time period for the mobile hotspots? I think the mobile hotspots is such an amazing contribution, especially during the summer, to have that connectivity.
3 weeks, 21 days.
Okay, so it's the same as checking out a book. Okay, very good. I would love to hear more as the summer progresses. Maybe at the end of summer, you could share with us what the circulation has been like for the mobile hotspots.
Absolutely.
I'm have a hypothesis, but I'll hold it until we do.
Awesome. No,
And I neglected in my report to mention that I had an opportunity to visit Land Branch Library after the reopening. It was my first time visiting since the reopening, and they've rearranged the furniture, I think, a little bit. But whatever changes they've made, I just want to give a shout out to Landa and to their PSA, of course, because the branch looks really great. And for some reason, it's like I know that they didn't change the space, but it seems bigger in there now. So that's really great. The afternoon that I visited prior to visiting the foundation meeting, it was just bustling with children. I mean, it was completely packed. So they've done a really nice job there. And I also had promised an update to the McCreeless branch staff, because they gave me recommendations on where to get the best breakfast tacos after the anniversary, and the recommendation that Denise gave me was fantastic. So I just want to go on the record, the official record, of saying that she did a fantastic job there. So next we'll go to the budget report for May 2026, and I think Gabby will provide that.
Hi, good afternoon, board members and board chair. I'm here to provide you with the budget overview as of the end of May on the green sheets in your packet. So we're as of the end of May, 67% of the fiscal year had elapsed, and we were at 66% spent, or 65% without encumbrances. So we're slightly behind on spending. This is going to be mainly due to two of the broad categories. One's the other expenditure category, where the gas and electricity is coming in under budget as of the end of May. And then the commodities category, where our library resources is a little behind in spending, and that's going to be due to the issue that we had with Baker and Taylor a couple of months ago and the halt in purchasing, but we've recovered from that, and we do not see any issues with being able to spend the rest of those remaining funds by the end of the fiscal year. So as stated at last month's meeting, the 6+6 report was presented to council on May 6th, and they adopted that on May 14th. So this month's report will reflect that revised budget in the revised budget column. So that's my report, but if y'all have any questions, I'll take them now. Thank you.
Next, we have a report from the Executive Committee, and the Executive Committee did meet on June 16th to set the agenda for today's meeting. Next, a report from the Advocacy Committee, and I understand that the Advocacy Committee did not meet during this reporting period. Next is a report from the Budget Committee. Ms. Harris?
We talked quite a bit, but, okay, we did not meet, have an official meeting.
Next, a report from the Facilities Committee.
Did meet, and Mark is going to give some updates.
Good afternoon, board members, board chair, library director. My name is Mark Loisel. I'm the library project control manager. And let's see if the clicker works. Maybe, maybe not. Oh, wait. On. 1 second, we'll get to the, so the facilities committee, oh. Facilities Committee did meet on June 11th. We had no action items, but we do have updates for all of our projects available in the construction update, which is in your packet. And then I will give a few updates on some of our projects that we have ongoing right now. Okay, let's see what we can do to get this. I'm not sure where to aim it at. There we go. Okay, maybe that's, there we go. Okay, all right. So the Carver Branch Library, that's the $12.5 million bond project, 2022 bond project. We're currently finishing the installation of all the structural steel for the new addition. They are insulating the exterior sheathing, insulating the new addition along with the existing facility, and then they're also completing roofing improvements as interior walls and partitions are installed. They're at about 40% construction right now. So they're moving along. Oops, trying to go in the right direction here. As you can see, couple photos here of the new exterior. It's really taking shape as you drive around the building, and then we've got a lot of different things going on the inside, starting to put up some wall partitions, put in some ceiling reinforcements and things like that. So that's moving along well. Next project is Texana. Staff is continuing to reshelve the Texana and genealogy collection. We're bringing back the remaining collection next month from storage, so it's all going to be back here at Central Library. We're still working on replacing that legacy unit in the HVAC in the vault, so we want to make sure that's taken care of before we completely load up the vault with materials. And then we do have the final graphic end panel or end cap installations being scheduled with the contractor. That's some of their last piece of work that they have to do. As we've noted, we're at now about 98% construction because we've got just a couple things the contractor has to finish, and then staff has a few other things to do for final move-in. As you can see by the schedule, we have delivered the final shelving, and then a lot of TBDs because they're depending on that HVAC unit being installed. The Cortez Branch Library, this project is a two-part project where we have interior work which we completed during the closure from a couple months ago, and then we have exterior work which is going to begin next month actually. The construction phase right now is at about 50%. Just got a few finished photos for you. I know we'll have some people that I'll have a chance to get out there. This is a quick schedule of the exterior portion of the building. Back in October of last year, Historic Design Review Committee approved the design, and then the library board approved the exterior design plan on December 3rd. We received our proposal for all the work on April 15th. PO was issued June 3rd, and then we're going to be starting the work July 6th, approximately, to get that work started around the exterior of the building, and then we'll communicate all the project schedules through our construction update. These are a couple of pictures of the interior work that we did. Here's the meeting room, the before and after shot of the carpet versus we now have hard surface flooring in there, so they can do all kinds of events in there without having to worry about messing up the floor. This is the new drinking fountain. So we kind of enhanced the entrance as you come in. So not only did we replace the large front door that was on that building that was difficult to open. We have now an automatic sliding door on that, but as you walk in, you will now see the new drinking fountain on the right-hand side there with the new tile work behind it. And we have refreshed the bathrooms inside as well. And then here's a shot of the new carpeting. It's a fabulous new environment to be in, and staff tells me that the public is really excited every time they come into the place. So that is the end of my report, unless there are any questions.
Or Facilities Committee? Thank you. Next, report from the Naming Committee.
I was briefed by Dale on some future items, but the committee itself did not meet.
And then a report from the Ad Hoc Board Policy Committee. And Fernanda is not here, but I understand the committee met on June 15th to review the circulation policy, and that is item number 20 on today's agenda. And then next, a report from the Ad Hoc 2027 Bond Committee. Andrea?
And we did meet, and Kathy's going to give an update on that.
So the Ad Hoc Bond Committee did meet on June 10th. They covered a number of items. So typically, the Ad Hoc Bond Committee, at the beginning of their process, starts with doing some guiding principles that help the staff sort of rank the priority of projects as the process goes along. So we talked about some guiding principles, and at their July meeting, they'll take, do further deliberations about that. We also talked about, at the next meeting, we'll be presenting the service gap map. So a great deal of the deliberation of the Ad Hoc Bond Committee is to look at where we have areas of the community that our 3-mile service area of existing locations does not reach members of the community. We look at the population density, we look at growth projections, and then that also informs what projects the board proposes and also prioritized. We did review a list of preliminary projects. So this cycle, our colleagues at Capital Delivery Department, and they'll be presenting in a moment, shared with us that they wanted to get preliminary projects in earlier. So we did work quickly, and we have shown that list to the Ad Hoc Bond Committee and the board as a whole, just for awareness. Those projects, of course, are not prioritized yet, and there'll be further work by the committee on that going forward. And then, of course, we talked about we were going to have a June board presentation by our colleagues, and that's tonight. And so at the July meeting, we'll go over the service map in detail and also have the committee talk more about what the guiding principles should be and set them. Thank you.
Questions for Kathy or Ad Hoc Bond Committee?
That I did speak briefly with my representative from D7 to see where maybe they're looking, whether they're going November or April, I think it is, yeah, May. And it's looking like May. So that's where she is right now. That's what they're seeing right now.
And then next is a report from the Ad Hoc Interlocal Agreement Committee, and that committee did meet on June 16th. Discussions with the county continue, but there is no update to report today. Next, we're going to move up item number 19 to receive a briefing on the planning and development process for the 2027 to 2032 City of San Antonio Bond Program, and Sukrit Goswami is going to introduce the speakers.
On? Okay. Good afternoon again, and I would like to introduce the Director of Capital Delivery Department of City of San Antonio, Michael Shannon. We'll be receiving a briefing on the planning and development process for the 2027 to 2032 City of San Antonio's bond program information. Michael, all yours.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Sukrit. And again, my name is Mike Shannon, so I'm the director of the city's Capital Delivery Department. Capital Delivery Department is a department that was created last year. We split from Public Works If you've been around San Antonio a little bit, we've done this before. We've split, we merged, and now we've split again. But it's really an opportunity for my department to focus on these large-scale capital projects, while our Public Works Department gets to maintain our thousands of miles of road and drainage and traffic infrastructure that we have. So I've been asked to give you an update on our next bond program that we're heavily involved with, and so I have a slide deck here that I'll kind of walk you through. I also have here Crystal Gonzalez. She is my assistant director. She oversees my vertical project division. So I have a horizontal project division, so streets and drainage projects, those kind of on the horizontal side. But Crystal actually oversees our division with our city architect that handles all of our vertical projects, library projects, fire stations, police stations, anything really in the building construction, along with parks projects. So she's here. If you have easy questions, they'll come to me. Difficult questions, we may ask Crystal to come help me. All right. So just last month, just a few weeks ago, I was able to give a presentation to the mayor and council. It really was to talk about the process, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about tonight. So those of you that have been around the bond process, you know, every 5 years or so we do this. And we really start off by talking about what is going to guide us as we develop the prioritization of our projects. So we develop guiding principles. There are a lot of important words and terms that guide us to develop priorities of our projects. It is important, though, that we propose and agree upon some guiding principles. These are the guiding principles that I'm showing up here that I proposed, and the City Council and Mayor approved. They like them. Some of them are continuation of previous bond programs. Some of them are absolutely obvious, like public health and safety. We have a lot of infrastructure needs. We are now the sixth largest city in the country. We have over 500 square miles, which is San Antonio, so that's a huge amount of land. We have a lot of needs, whether it be infrastructure like streets and drainage and sidewalks, facilities that we have, facilities that we need, public safety, libraries, community centers, et cetera, and now affordable housing. So all of those tend to help us improve the public health and safety of our residents that live, work, and play here, right? So that's an obvious one. The one on top is one that's been around for a while, but we've retermed it, plan alignment. Plan alignment is critical. We have so many plans here in the city. So if you've been around the city a long time, we generally go through a process to develop master plans or strategic plans. There's a lot of thought and effort put into those. I know the library has a 5 or 6 year strategic plan that helps guide us. It's the vision document that helps guide us as a city or department so we can serve our community as we grow and as more people come here, where are we going to kind of put our resources and efforts. So we're looking for projects that align with our plans, our city's master plans, whether it's SA Tomorrow, as you all have an ad hoc committee on prioritizing library projects. I'm imagining that you're working with your strategic plan documents to help guide you on those tough decisions of what priority projects you're going to propose. So that's important. Certainly resiliency, we have to continue to build and maintain a resilient city. We have to be resilient through the good times, but certainly through the tough times. Some of those are economic challenges. Some of those are crises like pandemics. Others are weather-related. So we look at projects that will help us improve our resiliency. Those will go up to the top of the priorities. Economic viability. You're going to hear a lot about economic viability over the next several months. Someone mentioned the budget process already. But we are in tough economic times right now. The city manager proposed a trial budget. It talked about a deficit, right? So that's just general operations. We're also going to talk about a proposed bond program that may or may not have as much money as we used to 5 years ago. So when we talk about these projects, are they going to help us maintain economic viability in the long run? Are they going to add cost to operations or save money? Those type of things. And then, of course, we have to have council input. They are the ones that are going to eventually approve a list of projects that we can put in front of voters. So they are always connected with not only board members like yourselves, but the neighborhood associations, residents. They know what they're hearing as priorities, so they're a significant piece of it. So those are the guiding principles that we're going to use. There's other terms and reasons why you might prioritize a project, but those are the 5 that we're going to help guide us. You can, if you'd like.
And you might, just a clear question of clarification, will you explain how the amount of the bond is determined and like the connection to property tax?
I'm going to get to that a little
Okay,
bit.
perfect,
Yeah.
thank you.
All right, so let's look at the 2027 bond program. So a few weeks ago, I proposed nothing, this is not rocket science. We've actually used these buckets or these categories. Affordable housing is the relative new one, but if you go back 20 some odd years, you're going to see we have a lot of streets and bridges and sidewalk infrastructure needs. We have to maintain, build new ones, those type of things. We have drainage and flood control challenges in San Antonio. We know that. A year ago, we had a significant tragedy in one area, but we have a lot of issues with drainage and flood control. We have parks and recreation needs. We have a lot of parks that need a lot of investment. We have new parks that we want to build. We have linear trails that we're trying to complete. So we have to grow our parks program. Facilities, libraries, public safety facilities, community centers, a lot of facility needs to continue to serve our community well. So that's another important bucket or category. And then affordable housing. You know, affordable housing was new in the 2017 bond. We did a small, after the city charter was changed, we kind of dipped our toe into the $800 million bond back then. We did $20 million of affordable housing, invested in that. Last time, in 2022, we did $150 million. And affordable housing is still a significant priority. It's a challenge. Some call it a crisis in not only our city, but in our country, around the world. So we believe affordable housing will continue to be a big part of our bond program moving forward. So this just is a snapshot of the last 20 some odd years as what we've had. We've grown our bond program significantly. If you go back to 2003, of course, 115. Certainly starting in 2007, we started with a $550 million, grew it to $596 in 2012, 2017, $850. And then, of course, in 2022, had $1.2 billion. So that was a great trend that we were all hoping to continue. What we are talking about now, though, is since last summer, last August or so, our chief financial officer and our economic, really the reality right now is if everything stayed the same, and I'll tell you a little bit about tax rates and those type of things, but our debt capacity is not going to be $1.2 billion if everything stays the same. Sales taxes is not where we thought it would be. Property values, right? If you own a home and you are not paying more taxes, that's great, but that is a significant part of what makes a debt capacity equation. So there are things that are limiting that, and we don't know exactly what that number is going to be yet. We will determine that this summer. When I say we, our policymakers, city council, mayor, will vote on that. But it could be significantly less than 1.2. The range that has been talked about out loud is maybe 500 million, maybe $1 billion, depending on some factors that need to be discussed at the city council level. But that's a significant TBD, but we'll know more in the next few months. This is a little bit about our debt management plan. I can read this slide to you. I know what's on this slide. If you ask me any difficult questions, we'll defer to our chief financial officer, who's probably not here. But I think you're going to hear a lot about this summer. This is a policy discussion that our city manager, our mayor, and council will have to decide on. Traditionally, we have done bond programs without having to increase our tax rate, right? We have two tax rates, one for our operations side of the house. We have one for debt capacity. Both of them are being discussed right now at the council level. Should we, for the first time in 30 years, as a city, raise that tax rate to be able to afford some of our basic operations and then certainly afford more in a bond program? There's a lot of discussion about that. Raising taxes, not raising taxes, you can imagine. We all have our own personal opinion, but that's something that the city's going to have to deal with. At the end of that conversation, though, that will lead us, based on that policy that the mayor and council approve, we'll have a debt capacity number that we can afford. Now, I always say this. 5 years ago, we had $1.2 billion, which is a lot of money. We had a lot more need. We had billions of dollars of infrastructure needs. So whatever number we land on, certainly we'll have more need than that, but it will definitely dictate where that line of priority stops that we can afford, and we'll start working on those projects. But that's what we know right now, but certainly that'll be a big part of our conversation through the summer and August and September, when we'll have those answers as to what the mayor and council are going to do with our budget and likely our debt management plan. Okay? All right, another important part of this is our community bond committee. So here's what's going to happen. My staff and I are working with department leadership, like Sukrit and Kathy and others, on several departments, as you can imagine, right? My drainage department, my public works, I got libraries, fire department, we'll meet with the police department, et cetera, et cetera. We're looking at what are your priorities for a department based on what you know you need, what your community needs, the community that you serve. And I will eventually, at the end of this summer, propose what I think are the priorities. Staff's recommendation, after I gather all that input, a list of projects based on what we think we can afford. City Council, I'm sure, will give me feedback, and they may not think I'm perfect. I know, shocking. They may ask me to tweak some things, and I'll go back to them, and eventually they'll approve a list of projects to really put forth in front of our community bond committees. They will ask community bond committees, approximately 150 or 160 people in those categories. We'll set, just like we did last time, set committees for each of those buckets to really wrestle with those projects that are either being proposed or that should be proposed, and bring it back to council with the community bond committee recommendations so the residents get to weigh in and give feedback to the council. And then eventually City Council will take those recommendations and they will vote on them and put a list of projects to voters, okay? So that's a lot of work that's going to happen in the next 7 months. Some of you may have worked on a community bond committee in the past. Anyone want to admit to that? Yes? Oh, thank you for your service. All right, so you know how much work and energy and effort that takes, and you really dive into those projects, right? And you really debate the prioritization. They're probably all needed. That's why they made the list, but we are trying to decide priorities. So this is what we're proposing this year, which is similar to what we did in 2022. Those 5 bond committees, each one will get, there'll be 30 appointments per committee, 2 co-chairs, right, 3 tri-chairs. The mayor and council will each have selections of that. So they'll be putting those lists together this summer, giving those to us so that we can really start that process probably in October. Okay. Some of the things I just wanted to mention as we are looking at determining the needs, the prioritization, I talked about some of them, but we have adopted plans like I mentioned. We have department assessments. Some departments have assessed their structure they've had a physical assessment of what they need to maintain or grow their structure. We have some projects that are multi-phased, right? If we're already doing phase 1 and or 2, phase 3 or phase 2 or 3 is really next in line. That helps us prioritize that project because we knew it was multi-phased. If we have shovel-ready projects or design complete, that helps us because we can actually get to construction right away as to waiting 2 or 3 more years to design a project. We have some projects that were just below that $1.2 billion line 5 years ago, and we have board recommendations like you. This is a perfect example. You guys are working with Sukrit and Kathy and the team as to prioritizing what you think the library needs, and we know you will present a list of recommendations and priorities to the city, and that's an important factor. There's other boards and commissions that help us with other buckets. And then lastly, we love money. If somebody's going to bring leverage funding to the table, whether it be working with TxDOT, working with the county, working with another organization, if they can bring some dollars, design dollars or something, that helps that get up on the priority list. So making dollars go, stretch farther, that's a prudent way to use it. So here's our timeline. I'm finishing up with this. So we did present a May and November timeline for next year. And those are the kind of the phase and milestones. We are in that kind of that middle portion. I am scoping and cost estimating some projects, not only with departments, but I'm bringing in some outside help as well. We got to know how much some of these are going to cost us, right? And then I'm working this summer to create some community bond 101 sessions, not unlike this right here, but going out to neighborhoods with council members and those type of things, just making sure people are ready for it. They know we can answer questions, what's happening, why is it important, what types of projects. And then at the end of the summer, we'll start recommending projects and going through that process with the council as we work to, if we go in May, in January, the council has to kind of approve the list of projects and then call a vote in February. There is a certain amount of time, it's almost 80 days, 75 or 80 days that we need to do between the calling of a vote and the vote. So we did hear from the mayor and council. It was a briefing, so they didn't vote on it, but most of the council members want us to go for the May 27 vote. We heard things like, things just get more expensive, these things are needed. There was some discussion about the November 27. It sounded like the minority of the mayor and council stated that. But we are planning for May. If it does change, we can always slow down. If we planned for November, it would be very difficult to speed up and catch up. So I think that's the right way to go. So with that, that's just the next steps that, evaluation of the project, establish the capacity, that's going to be a big one, and then certainly the community engagement, meetings like this. And if you could help me by sharing some of this information with your community members, that'd be great. And with that, I hope I didn't take too long, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, if you could go back 2 slides to the proposed bond development timeline.
Yes.
And it says here that the third line or the third box, B sessions, staff recommend projects and community meetings process. So that says June to August. Is there a date that you are expecting staff to provide you with a prioritized list? And the reason I'm asking is that we're not an advisory board, we're a governing board.
Sure, yeah.
So we do actually have to meet and then prioritize and then give that information to staff.
Yes, I would think by the end of July, if I could have, through the library or through you all, the list of recommended prioritization projects, that would be helpful. I mean, I've had conversations with Sucrit and Kathy, and we'll continue that because they're keeping me up to date on clearly what we think are some of the priorities moving forward, just so that we have an idea of cost and those type of things. But I would say a month from now would be a right date because I am planning on presenting late August to the council, probably with my first recommended list after I've gathered all the input I can, meaning staff, and I'll say, well, I think this is what the list of projects should be, and we'll start there. That'll kind of start that process where they get to give me feedback, we do a little bit of back and forth, and then eventually we get back into the community bond committee. So I would say late July would be a target. So if you want to say July, 25th, that would be good, or 24th. Yeah, we'd love it about that time.
Okay, that sounds good. I think a note for trustees is that in our July meeting, we need to set aside time for that. And I think that timing should work out because hopefully we can kick off the Carver Capital Campaign in conjunction with that as well, so that any of those leveraged funding opportunities, we'll be able to give you information about those with our partners at the foundation who help us to fundraise and things like that as well. Any other questions for Mike or Crystal, who's here today? Beth?
I have a question. On the slide that discusses the debt management plan, and I apologize if this is extremely elementary, but can you explain more about the variable tax rate? How is that decided and who decides that?
Yeah, who decides it will be mayor and council?
Okay.
So we have traditionally had a fixed tax rate, both on the operations side and the debt capacity side, and those have not been those have not been raised in 30 years. There are a couple of times they've been decreased, but a variable debt service tax rate is a mechanism where the council could decide on a policy to at times of need raise it. But at certain times where, let's say, the revenue projections actually exceed what we planned and we don't need as much, they can lower it. So it kind of just goes up and down as the need. There is some state law implications about you have to stay within a certain number. There is a number of 3.5% growth, and this is only on the operations side, not really on the debt capacity side. So there are some state guidelines that you can move up a debt capacity only a certain amount, that's 3.5% for the prior year, before you have to go to voters to ask for more. But I think that this is being discussed because if they do choose to increase, they also want to set parameters, at least some of them want to set parameters of when you would decrease it if in the future we don't need as much. Let's say property values go up, sales tax go up, the revenue is again, more than we planned. That'd be a mechanism or a tool to bring it back down. Does that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
A follow-up question. So is this essentially saying that the bond repayment is primarily funded just by property taxes?
No, I'm not saying. I think there's a lot of factors in that equation that tells us what our debt capacity is. Sales tax, certainly property tax, interest rates, those type of things. are the main components. I'd have to get our CFO here to probably give
Okay.
you that full list of whatever, but.
Other
we know-
forms of revenue could also impact the repayment time period?
Sure, I think that's, more revenue coming in, and certainly the city has, we have several different ways that funds come into the city. Some are really particular, they're governed by ordinance or state law, they can only go to certain things, like the hot tax, for example, can only go to certain things, maybe couldn't be used for the debt repayment, but it could offset some other things. So I think that's where we'd probably have a more, detailed conversation, but I do know the city manager, our chief financial officer, the mayor and council, they're looking for every which way on how to address this challenge. But there's a lot of revenue sources.
Do we have any idea what's driving the lower property values? Because it was my impression that the market was looking pretty good.
Sure, I think what we're seeing and hearing from the Bear Appraisal District and some of that, I think property values or the housing market, if you will, it's not as hot as it was maybe a few years ago. Interest rates are still above 6%, sometimes close to 7%. We used to be at 2.5%, 3.5%, right? So that has slowed down the market some. I think the sale of houses has kind of, the cost of a house, let's say, has steadied. A few years ago, it was climbing. I remember I had my property bill tax bill every year. It was surprisingly increasing fast, which was a challenge. It has slowed, so I think houses are going for, not increase. So that just, I think they're just staying flat, if you will. There are some other things that I think the city manager and the mayor and council are looking at, our chief financial officer, about how Bear County appraises. Something has changed there in the last few years. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I think they're looking at that, but I think we're just a little surprised that it has stayed flat now for a year or two, where the projection was that it was going to grow. Maybe not as fast as 21, when things were really going kind of steep increases, but it has seemed to flatten out.
I had a question about the community engagement sessions, because we know that they always come up normally around the same time, but since you said that you're pushing forward with that May plan just as in case that is what they decide to go with, is there a projected timeline right now of when those community sessions will begin?
Yeah, it's going to happen probably starting in July. Some of the council members have asked if we can attend some of their meetings and do something, this is formal, but somewhat informal, that we can have a conversation about it. Others want us to do it as part of the budget town halls, right? And I think there's a mix there. Some of the things we're talking about, whether it be tax rate, how much we can afford, it's all kind of intermingled. I think that'll be an important conversation there. So I think next month we'll be starting. Some council members want to do it a little different. Some want us to do it at the neighborhood association level, and they have several neighborhoods. Some have larger groups of multiple neighborhoods. They have presidents' associations and stuff like that. And then others may call their own, we can do a bond 101. So we're trying to be flexible with each council district. They tend to know their area the best and are plugged in, but we may need to do some additional ones. So we're going to stay flexible and try to go where the people are and have these just really conversations of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and really hopefully answer questions so people feel informed, because eventually we're going to ask them to vote on the bond. And while we've been successful over the last couple of decades, that's been great, but we don't, we want to make sure everybody's informed when they go to vote. Those I believe are going to start around October. So late September. What we believe will happen is, this process of going back and forth with the council members on the bond projects, getting it ready to hand over to the bond committees, that'll happen around the same time as the budget process is happening. So we have the typical yearly budget, but we also have this big item of the bonds coming up. But once the budget is approved, which is in mid-September, we'll be quickly transitioning to, all right, council, these are the projects you want us to hand over to the community bond committees. And then we'll start in, I'm really shooting October 1, whether it's October 1 or October 5th. But October 1, we'll be ready. We'll have meetings, we'll have kickoff meetings with those committees. There's a little bit of particulars and formality, a little bit of training on that of, open meetings and stuff like that. And then we hand it off. And if you were on, anybody was part of the last version, and either attended and or was on one of the committees, it's fast and furious. And the staff's going to be there to facilitate, and we're going to ask for people that are willing to, put in a little effort and help us. But it's been a very successful process over the last several bond cycles. What we heard is that the mayor and council want us to mirror the last one pretty closely because it was, again, it's fast and furious, but it worked well. And the mayor and council did get good feedback from the committees to be able to put those priorities together and put a bond in front of the voters. So I think that's going to be the timeline. And so if you're interested, you can ask me any questions or talk to your council member and their team. So.
Time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you for all you do for the city and the libraries. All right, I'll leave this here.
Okay, next we'll hear a report from the San Antonio Public Library Foundation.
Good evening. Since our last report, as you guys obviously noticed, I wasn't here last month. We were actually having an intensive staff retreat, a multi-day staff retreat, and we are thrilled with the outcomes of that. We came out with a 5-year vision, a 5-year plan, a fundraising plan, a board member roadmap. Of course, as a staff, we're not in charge of that, but we thought we'd give our board a little push towards a new strategic plan because some of you may remember our last strategic plan that was driven by our board was from 2020 to 2025. So we wanted to give them a head start on that. We had some new ideas, some really great new ideas that came out of that. One you'll be hearing more about in the future, but it's a little something we're calling Story Spark grants, and we're going to try and drive more gifts and a little bit more money directly to the branch levels. So we're excited about that. We have a lot of donors who are interested in innovation and doing that at sort of a more grassroots level than we have been. So we are getting together details of that, but right now we're just really excited about all of the wonderful ideas that came out of our staff retreat. Carver update. We have had no further confirmation of gifts since the last report, but about $250,000 more in grants have been applied for. So that's always a good thing. We'll just have to wait and see how many of those are successful. And then Cameron Redding, my board chair, and I are starting to work in earnest on the list of very large donors for the community room at Carver, because that'll obviously be the largest single gift for that naming opportunity, and that's just as a reminder, a minimum of $500,000. So we have Cameron has some very good contacts, and we have some really great people on that list, and we're going to start working on that, even though that's in phase 2 in the future, where we are. For a gift that size, you really have to start working on it a long time in advance of when you actually need the money. Our nominating committee is a little bit delayed for this year, so they haven't even met yet. They will be meeting next month, so the good news about that is you all still have time to email me recommendations if you have people from your districts that you think would be great board members for us. We're always looking for great people, and the committee vets those folks, and then they're voted on in November for a January 1st start on our board. Typically, we are maybe 3 months ahead of this, but we did get a little bit of a late start this year, so there's still some time to get those recommendations in if you have them. And then just a quick reminder, October 4th is our literacy luncheon, which we have Drew Daywalt, the author of The Day the Crayons Quit, and about 30 other children's books coming to town. And as a reminder about that, that is a luncheon where you can bring your kiddos. And Drew is just a great speaker, and so we look forward to that. Are there any questions?
Show us your beautiful placemats.
I brought my giant folder if you want to look at them. I
feel like you should show at least one of them just for the visual appeal.
Well, my board makes fun of me because I'm obsessed with everything 11 by 17. So now I finally have a folder that's 11 by 17. And I'm really obsessed with this one, 11 by 17 format. So this is our vision document. This is our fundraising document. This is our, here, I'll show it. If it's 11 by 17, I love it. This is our board roadmap. Yes, this is our board roadmap. So I'm happy to share it with those.
I just thought it was very colorful and very, very creative design, so thank you for sharing that.
A lot of that information is in multi-page documents, and nobody looks at them. So we're giving the colorful in 11 by 17 a try. Right, thank you.
Any questions for Amy?
I have a question. A board that I served on previously had a minimum financial requirement for board
Yes, we do.
members to, okay, that's what I wanted to ask. Do you, and can you share what that is?
Sure. It is $1,500 a year. 1,000 of that is considered board dues and can't be combined with anything else. The other 500 is an additional, you can buy tickets to an event, you can do a whole lot of book plates, you can do any other kind of donation that you want to cover that 500.
Can it be donations that the board member brings in, for example?
No, it's
if
not a
they-
give-get. It's a direct
Okay.
It's a direct
It's a
give. It
direct-
can be from their company. So if the company buys a table at an event, or if the company buys tickets to an event, that counts. But it can't be it's not a give-get. It's not set up that way.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have a report from the Friends of the San Antonio Public Library. Ms. Alves Presley.
I've been attending some more Friends meetings, getting some good ideas that I can share with the other branches to help bring in more revenue for them. Thank you all so much for attending the 60th anniversary for McCreeless. I thought it was fantastic. I had a great time at it and kind of renewed some friendships through the years that I had forgotten about. So I was thrilled about that. I kind of did an uh-oh and fell behind on my doing an annual report for the Friends. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to do a mid-year report and get it sent out. I've already started working on it. It's just about finished. Kind of letting donors and just the membership and you all know what's been going on so far and how we're progressing. I have to echo what Amy said about the nomination committee. The good thing is I don't have too many board members rolling off. The sad news is our executive committee has served their time as of January 2027. So if you all have someone at a meeting you're at for your group of friends, let me know, and we would like to get their name and talk to them about the positions and let them know what a fun group we are. But we have president, vice president, we have our treasurer and our secretary that are up for election this year. The speakeasy was fabulous. I thought I had fun, and it was just a great time. I brought in a couple of people from the outside that had no clue about the bookseller, and the cash register kept ringing up sales last night. So I'm excited about that. Our next one we want to open up to the public, so that should be exciting too. And our next board meeting is on Sunday, July 26th at 2 p.m. at Great Northwest. So I hope you all can come out again. And thank you all so much for your support for the Friends. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Festival, and their executive director is here, and Dale McNeil will be introducing her.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Trustees, Library Director. So it's really my pleasure to introduce Lisa Ayers, Executive Director of the San Antonio Book Festival, the organization, right? There's a book festival and there's an organization with a very similar name. Lisa is new to presenting. This is her first time to present to you all, but she certainly is not new to the San Antonio Book Festival because she's been involved for many years as a volunteer. While I've also been involved for every single year of it, I think each year it's just better. And that only makes sense, right? You get better at doing something you've done before, but to get better at something you never did before, that really takes some work. So with that, I'll have Lisa speak to you.
Thank you very much, Dale. And first, before I say anything, I want to say thank you. Thank you for letting us invade your space for many, many days and hold the San Antonio Book Festival here. It's unique in the book festival world to be on the grounds of a library, but I can't think of a better match. And so we really just appreciate all that you do for us. And this year was really darn good. So also I need to mention, everyone's mentioned it, what library you're attached to, and I'm a Maverick girl, so yay, Maverick Library. And I think, am I doing this right? Oh. Yes, okay. So I'm just going to share with you some numbers. There's copies at your places. I also have some extra copies here, but it will be on our website come this week, so you can find it there as well. And then Jessica and Dale have copies as well. So first things first, 25,000 festival goers this year. We put that number together using the number of people that enter the library. We do this with venue counts, book sales, etc. But if you were there, you could just tell we had more people than ever, and so we were comfortable saying about 25,000 people attend our festival, which is huge and something we can definitely be proud of. We had 64 different sessions for people to choose from this year. We had 111 authors, so many of our authors were in conversation, which is something our festival goers really like, where they get to hear two different authors speak along with a moderator. We had 95 books featured, and of those 95 books, we sold 4,007 copies sold, which is a 900 book increase over last year. We had many, many authors sell out, so we obviously could have sold more, but that is very exciting when an author comes to our festival and they sell out. It makes them feel good, makes them want to come back, and they share the word with their friends. We had 6 authors in schools visits and field trips. So our Authors in Schools is a program where we go into the school, we bring an author who's going to be featured at the festival, and they read to the kids, do a demonstration. We have a lot of author illustrators, and then each kid gets a copy of the books. And the most important thing is they get to ask a lot of questions as well. And the festival's a lot of fun, but that day before is great. So. And of that, we were able to distribute 1,114 books to students that day. We are always looking to grow our field trips. We have some ideas for how we can have more kids coming on those buses to the festival in the future. And then there's a very large number at the bottom. I know it says 4 billion media impressions. We get that number from our media people, and they promise it's real. So, but it's exciting. Of the 64 total sessions, something that was interesting this year, and I guess a constant problem for us to fix, is that 37% of our sessions exceeded capacity. I think some of that is where we were surprised by the popularity of an author, and kind of going forward, knowing some of the subjects of the books, I think we can adjust where we hold our sessions. 56 sessions were a capacity of 80% or higher, which is great because we always want our authors to feel really loved and people to be excited about them. One thing we noticed this time, which was different than it's been in the past, is that we had attendance kind of all day long. As we all know, approaching Book Festival, we were very, very nervous. We had many meetings with Dale and his staff about what are we going to do with torrential rain. Well, that didn't happen. And so people were like, oh my gosh, and it's also not 100 degrees. So they stayed all day long. We noticed that with our vendors, with our sessions. We did have a little drop off at 4 o'clock. That's because George Saunders canceled, but people still stayed and attended the other sessions as well. And George Saunders is confirmed for next year. So that was something we were super excited about this year, was the fact that people stayed all day, which is, I think, a testament to our programming and also a big thank you to Mother Nature for that exceptionally not hot day we had. Something that's always a point of pride for us is where our authors are from. We had 35 authors that were local to San Antonio, and that's super important that we always feature our local homegrown talent, right? Or those that choose to live here. 30 authors were regional to Texas, and then 43 authors were for somewhere else in the United States. So again, we're still continuing to bring in those big name authors that people have heard about and want to come here. And then we had 3 authors which were international, which we were excited about. And one of those was a partnership we did with Ruby City, where they helped to bring in those international authors. And so that's something we're going to look at for in the future to try to continue that partnership with local cultural groups to bring in some more people. Praise. We had so many people time and time again tell us that we are one of the best book festivals they attend. These are authors telling us this. We had a couple that was their first festival, and they were like, I don't know how anything else is going to compare. And I think that's the hospitality we show them. I think it's, being here on the grounds of the library, being at UT San Antonio Southwest, the fact that our VIP room is at Club Giroux, we serve hot meals. Sometimes they get like cold sandwiches. So we just had a lot of really strong feedback. We also had good feedback from all of our vendors. Our vendors said that they sold quite a bit. They were really happy to be here. We make it a point to only have local vendors. And unfortunately, a lot of our food trucks sold out of all the food, which is, I guess, a problem of having 25,000 people, but we'll work on that. One other number, I apologize, this slide is a little wrong, so the corrected version is there. We did not have any Booker Prize winners, but we did have 3 Pulitzer Prize winners. We had 10 National Book honorees. We had 3 Caldecott winners, and we had 2 MacArthur Fellows this year. So quite proud of that. Again, we try to reflect our community, and so 56.7% of our authors identified as writers of color. Again, just a little bit about book sales, and I won't go into the details. Every year, House on Mango Street is the top-selling book, and I think it's because we're very lucky to have Sandra, and people want to get just a signed copy of her book. But the book sales continue to grow, and I think that number and us being able to show that to authors is going to continue to bring up the caliber of the authors we bring to the festival. And of course, we remind people that they can also check out all of these books. They don't have to buy them. But I know that we also had some high numbers on people signing up for library cards this year, which we were really excited about as well. Then again, one thing that is exciting to see is that these are the kind of the breakdowns of the top selling books, but also some of our attendees. Our graphic novels, super popular. We sold 551 of those. Our memoir, which was, we only had one of them, but that was Jeff Hiller, which is a local guy, graduated from Churchill High School and recently won an Emmy. He was our most popular session, and his book sold well. We had a lot of young kids show up, and we always have young kids show up for the children's, but we had a lot of strong middle grade, which is, I guess, the group we're all trying to reach to get them to continue reading. So those books are on there as high sellers. Media coverage. We had a lot of good media coverage this year. One thing I'll point out that I was excited about is the fact that we got into the Express News 3 times, and we got into the Current twice, and we haven't been able to get in the Current before, so that was really good. The total media value, like we don't pay for any of this, but was $16 million in media coverage that we were able to get. We had 329 mentions, again, those high impressions numbers. And then I have in the examples there just some of the articles. One big highlight star was Arnie Tex. He is the YouTube Champion Pitmaster, he had the 3rd highest best-selling book in San Antonio last year, and he got a lot of interviews. People were happy to have him. So I think our decision to bring cookbooks back this year was very smart, because we had a lot of fans. And there's just some of the different articles. We were mentioned as a top thing to do. We invested in digital marketing. We work with Tilted Chair. They were able to, this is kind of paid, but we only spent, $4,000, and we got, almost 900,000 media impressions. We added ourselves to Google Search and Google Display, which really helped grow our numbers. Something else we got this year was digital billboards. Very lucky that one of my dear friends works for Lamar, and so she was able to put the billboard you see on the screen and in your packet up in kind of the northern part of San Antonio, which is her area. So we were at 1604 and O'Connor, we were up in Stone Oak, and we were actually like near 1604 and 35, which is not areas we think people are gonna come downtown from. But we were on like every 3 seconds for a month. So I know, and if you look at our zip codes, we brought people in from there. And that's something we can continue to do. And of course, we put the library's logo on those billboards as well, so people know where we are. One last part about social media. We grew our Instagram followers, we grew our Facebook followers, our meta insights were great. We, this year, created little cards or little images for all of our authors and asked them to share too and to co-tag us, and I think that helped us grow. We created those for our vendors as well, and then I know with our library partnership, we co-tagged each other, and those were some of our biggest numbers that we had when it was both of us on those social media. And that's how a lot of people find us, is through that. So we saw good growth with that. And then just again, a little bit of authors in schools. Here are some of the authors we had. Zeke Pena, we had Brianna Carzo. Oh, we just talked about Zeke, sorry. My part's done here, but I will say save the date for April 10th, 2027. We're ready to go again. We're going to have the U.S. Poet Laureate is coming, and we're excited about that. And we've also already booked George Saunders. A few things that aren't here that I want to mention that I was really proud of. We had an accessibility sponsor for the first time, so we were able to have 4 of our sessions have American Sign Language translation. 3 adult sessions and then 1 child session. And then we had suggestions to find kind of a autism-friendly room, like a quiet space. And so we're going to try to look at that, or maybe we're going to try to have like a quiet session book that we can highlight for children. And then also next year, I really want to have low vision and try to find a way to figure out how to have more information about that. But the accessibility part's important to us, and I hope that we can grow that next year. So. Thank you again for hosting us. We really appreciate it. It was a great year, and onwards and upwards. So thank you, guys.
Does anyone have any questions or comments for Lisa? Thank you for being here, and I'll just make one comment. The book festival now seems like it was a long time ago because we've had a couple of meetings since then, but I just had a reminder looking through this at how many of the sessions I went to were packed, and I had to stand in the back, which is a really great, I think, indicator of how popular things are. And just want to congratulate you on a really great book festival, and also thank you for everything that you do, not only obviously during the book festival and prepping for the book festival itself, but also within the community year-round, because your organization does some really great things for literacy and just helps to create those community connections that do end up being associated with the library. So thank you very much for that, and please tell your team that we are still talking about. I'm meeting Jeff Hiller, he was hilarious, and so many of the other authors during the book signings, they weren't, I've been to other book festivals where they're just like signing whatever you put on the Post-it note, and then just like next, but the authors at the San Antonio Book Festival actually take time. They're like, oh, so where are you from? And, have a little short conversation with you. And that is something that's really unique to San Antonio. So definitely creating like a really great environment. And I guess I should also say that the food at Club Juro was amazing this time. So that was fantastic as well. Thank you so much. All right, next we have a staff report on Americans and the Holocaust, a traveling exhibit, and Morgan Yoshimura is going to provide this update.
Board, Board Chair and Library Director. My name is Morgan Yoshimura. I am our Coordinator of Services to Adults, and I have the pleasure this evening of being able to give you just a quick update on an item that a couple of board members mentioned, and our director as well, and that is a new exhibit that we just opened here at the Central Library last week. So I want to start by just briefly making some acknowledgments. Like so many, if not all of the things we do at the library, are the things that we do can be so much more impactful when we partner. And this Americans and the Holocaust exhibit and associated programming is no different. So as Sukrit mentioned, we have the opportunity to host the exhibit through a grant that we are awarded that was co-sponsored by both the American Library Association and the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. So we are extremely grateful for that grant and that we were awarded it. Like Sukrit mentioned, we are one of 50 libraries that are participating in this traveling exhibit for the next 2 years. I just want to also acknowledge the part of the grant, they asked that we acknowledge some additional folks. I'm going to do that quickly. So the Americans in the Holocaust, a traveling exhibit for libraries, is made possible by the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum and the American Library Association. The exhibit itself was made possible by the generous support of lead sponsor Jeannie and Jonathan Levine. Additional major funding was provided by the Bildners, Joan and Alan, Elsa Spungen and Rob, Nancy and Jim, and the Jane and Daniel Ock. The museum's exhibitions are also supported by the Lester Robbins and Sheila Johnson Robbins Traveling and Special Exhibitions Fund. So those are sort of our national partners for this. As far as our local partnerships that are supporting this effort, of course, I think most of you know about our very deep and long-standing partnership with the Holocaust Memorial Museum of San Antonio. We've worked with them every year with the Holocaust Learn and Remember effort. They are supporting us in this effort as well. And then I'll talk a little bit more about our partnership for this one with the University Incarnate Word in a little bit. So to talk a little bit about the exhibit itself, it is in our central gallery, so I'm sure you passed it on your way in. It is an 1,100 square foot traveling exhibition that is based on a permanent exhibition that opened in April of 2018 at the museum in DC. As part of this grant, I had the opportunity to travel to DC and spend about 3 days at the museum in DC and was actually able to see the permanent exhibit that is still there. And I think the traveling exhibit does a really good job of pulling in the content from that permanent exhibit. It addresses important themes in American history, including Americans' responses to refugees, war, and genocide in the 30s and 40s. It challenges the commonly held assumptions that Americans knew little and did nothing about Nazi persecution and the murder of Jews as the Holocaust unfolded. When you visit the museum, you'll notice that sort of the structure of the exhibit is there's 4 guiding questions. And that's because the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum founding chairman and Holocaust survivor Elie Wiesel said that there are no answers, and the museum is not an answer, it is a question mark. So the exhibits throughout the Museum DC, as well as this traveling exhibit, really encourage people to intake the information and reflect, draw conclusions, etc. So the exhibit has 4 guiding questions, and then each part of the exhibit follows those. So the first sections is about what did Americans know about the Holocaust? Did Americans help Jewish refugees? Technology is not cooperating. There we go. Why did America go to war? And then how did Americans respond to the Holocaust? Each part of the exhibit has, it does a great job of presenting a lot of graphic, information graphically and visually. And each part also has, you can see it in this image on the left there, each has like a multimedia component as well. And I think that really helps make the exhibit more accessible. So I think it fits absolutely perfectly in our gallery and would definitely encourage you to visit. In the first 3 days that the exhibit was open here at Central, 1,000 people visited the exhibit. So already getting a great response from the community. Because we want to give folks more opportunities than just the exhibit to engage with the content in the exhibit, we are hosting a total of 3 public programs. One has already happened. That was last week on Thursday evening. Presentation by Dr. Isaac Ammon. You'll remember that we had to cancel the last program of the Holocaust Learn and Remember in January because of weather, and so we were able to reschedule him, and he was able to adapt his program to the things of the exhibit. It was live streamed, so if you haven't had a chance to see that, it is on the library's website and on our YouTube page. The other 2 programs, we are hosting a viewing and discussion of segments of the Ken Burns miniseries documentary. And then, so we'll show, it's about a 45-minute total for all of those segments. And then we're working with someone who works for the museum in DC, but remotely. She lives here in San Antonio, and so she's going to facilitate a discussion. And then the last one is where we're partnering with the University of Carnet Word. We're hosting 2 of their history professors, and they're really going to take even more a local look at the content of the exhibit and look at, how did folks in San Antonio respond to the Holocaust? What were some of the racial things that were going on in San Antonio in the 30s and 40s? Things like that. Details of all of that is on our website, as well as there's also a virtual version of the exhibit. So if you want to learn more, dig in more, would encourage you to visit that. But yeah, that is that's what I have to share about the Americans in the Holocaust exhibit. So, questions?
Okay. So much. And encourage everyone to stop by and interact with the exhibit next door. Next, we have a staff report. This is a fiscal year 2026 mid-year performance report, and it will be presented by Randall and Jessica.
Hi, good evening. Randall Polashek, Data Manager, here to deliver our mid-year performance report. Now, there are 2 sections of this report. I'll go ahead and give an overview of the mid-year performance, and then towards the end, Jessica will provide a Spurs Mania performance report. So for the performance report, this is mid-year, so we are looking at the first 6 months of fiscal year 2026. So October 2025 through March 2026. And what we're going to do is just kind of compare what were the targets for that first 6 months, look at the actual performance, and then kind of put those side by side and look at other trends. Now, as far as how the targets are developed, that is part of the city's budget process. So about a year ago from now, we were developing targets for 2026. Now, what it is basically looking at 3 things. It's looking at historical performance from previous years, is looking at current year trends, and then forecasting in the future, like if we have a planned closure or if there's elections that are happening that upcoming year. So we kind of look at all those 3 things together and we develop these targets. Now, the purpose of these targets is really just to estimate with our existing resources what we can expect to achieve. So they're not really like any stretch goals or anything that's out of the ordinary. So they're just really just an indicator of how well we're performing. And then towards the end, again, we'll summarize fiscal year 2026. So just as a recap, we have 3 key performance indicators here. The first is circulation. That's going to be our checkouts and renewals of our physical collection and then checkouts of our digital added together. The second is hours of technology. That is hours measured with public computer use and Wi-Fi use added together. And the last one is visits. So in addition to these 3 key performance indicators, I'll also kind of just cover just some other operational measures that we track. They're the ones that are included in your monthly report. So looking at circulation, for the last 5 years, you can see it's been trending upwards. Back in 2022, that was, just after the pandemic, we had about 3.5 million items checked out. Now fast forwarding to these 6 months in fiscal year 26, that was just over 4.8 million items. So that's the trend in increasing digital checkouts and just overall increased use. So for visits, it's a little bit different. You don't see that same upward trend year over year. You can kind of see how it fluctuates in the odd fiscal years, and that's again because of elections. So looking at, again, first 6 months of fiscal year 22, that was about 1.1 million visits counted. And then if you fast forward to first 6 months of fiscal year 26, it was 1.5 million total visits to the library.
Sorry, Randall, on the previous slide, is that for the first 6 months as
Correct.
well? That's what
Yes.
the markers on the left are? Okay, thank you.
First 6 months for each of these fiscal years. Because otherwise, it does look kind of funny if we're comparing a full year to just 6 months. Like, what happened in 2026? And it's just put it comparable. So for hours of technology, in fiscal year 2022, those first 6 months, it was just under 800,000 hours of use. And then we were trending upwards. And as we reported over the years, there was a change that occurred in fiscal year 2024, just how Wi-Fi in particular was counted and tracked and reported by ITSD. So we adjusted, we level set our targets, and for fiscal year 2026, it was 980,000 hours of total hours of technology. And for the next 3 slides, I'll kind of cover the other operational measures. So for marketing engagements, in fiscal year 2022 on the left, those 6 months, we had 2.5 million. Now marketing engagements, again, it's counting the number of social media engagement that's actually like liking and commenting and sharing, things like that, and also the number of emails that are actually opened. So when those 2 added together, it's tracking that level of online engagement. And you can see how this has increased year over year. For the first 6 months for 2026, it was just under 8.5 million. So much growth has occurred in this area, and it's important that we do measure this. Now for website visits, we have 3 data sources that we add together. It's any visit to our mysapl.org or our LibGuides, where staff create content, and then our catalog. We add those 3 together to count the number of website visits. Data wasn't available before fiscal year 2024, so we're only looking at 3 years here. But again, you can see the upward trend where it went from 2.6 million in 2024 to just over 3 million in 2026. So this is good to see.
Questions, if I can stop you here. How are mobile app metrics displayed? Are they included in this?
They're not. We're not able to actually track the number of usage on the mobile app in a similar way. So it's no longer a measure that we can, count or report on.
But you can report on searches, like how often someone opens it and searches something?
I believe so. We can look into it to see what is available. I know for sure it's not like a session that can be used, but maybe like we used to be able to track downloads, but that was not a measure that's available any longer.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Downloads, how many times the app was downloaded.
And what did you say at the end, that's no longer available? Okay. Okay, I'm curious as to why, but we can follow up on that. And then the new mobile hotspots that were provided through the Methodist grant, are those being counted as digital access?
They will actually be included in circulation. So they are checkouts, It'll be part of just overall total circulation.
But like the actual usage of the Wi-Fi, that should be added, I believe, into like digital access, because it's providing digital access metric?
We can look into that.
Okay.
If it's possible or not.
Well, we have not yet received the actual reports yet, so we'll see if that's something that could be included. And then for the last, yes. Oh.
This was not my answer, this was Adam Zaby's answer, but I just was on the front row, so I got up. So the hot spots, we will be able to track hours of use.
Awesome. Okay, great. Thank you.
For the last operational measure for library programs, trending upwards, 2,000 programs in 2022. The first 6 months, of course, that was a different year. And then 2026, over 6 million programs. I mean, I'm sorry, 6,000. That'll be a lot of programs. All right, so then looking at this side by side, for targets for those first 6 months of circulation, it was just under 5 million. We recorded 4.8 million total circulation, so that was just 1% below. For visits, our target was 1.2 million. Our actual was 1.5, so we're 16% ahead. And for hours of technology, that target was 900,000, and we recorded 980, so that was 6% better. And then for this slide here, just some key takeaways, just kind of summarizing the presentation. For hours of technology, again, that's computer and Wi-Fi currently, and Wi-Fi is 84% of that, and that is growing. Circulation has grown year over year, and that proportion of physical and digital that's included in your report, you can see how it's about 50-50, it's roughly half. Visits are largely tied to election cycles and visits, how that fluctuates year over year. So for 2027, we will look at that. And then for websites, that use is continuing to grow year over year, and same for programs. We can look at that. Okay, now for Spurs Mania.
Good afternoon, Jessica Zarita, Assistant to the Director, and it's my pleasure to share with you an update regarding Spurs Mania. Spurs Mania took over the San Antonio Public Library starting May 12th when the Spurs entered the playoffs, and we had a blast through the duration of the playoffs. So to begin with, the library in total posted to social media 30 times between May 12th and June 10th. That garnered us 842,000 impressions on social media. That means that on somebody's feed, SAPL and our social media appeared. What's most impressive is that 29,000 were turned into engagements, which means somebody either liked, shared, or commented on that social media. Our team is super creative, and we're getting all sorts of different ideas of how to promote SAPL, libraries, and the Spurs all at the same time. Here are a couple examples, and a big shout out to our staff. We put a call out to staff and asked, wear your Spurs gear, come to Central Library. We didn't tell them what was going on. They showed up, and we had different videos, here we had stacks of books based on different players' heights. And so our staff is amazing in supporting the library's efforts to promote the Spurs and library and literacy. And so we also had 20,000 clicks to our website as a result of these social media posts. So that's also a great stat to have. Now, we had one social media post that just took off. Our Read Like Wimby platform that was right outside the display of books. Right when you enter Central Library, that's one of the first things that you saw. We featured that on a social media post. It caught the attention of a reporter from The Athletic, the New York Times, and they did an interview with us, and we shared photos with them, and that itself helped us get international, national, and local media. So we had France Radio France and French Television doing interviews with us, which was awesome. So we had that international. We also had A. Martinez on Morning Edition promote Read Like Wimby, and that covers through the Morning Edition program that he does on national radio. And so over 800 NPR member stations heard that. So that's over 120 million people that heard Read Like Wimby, the Association of Reading, the Spurs, and the San Antonio Public Library all together. And so we're really excited about the creativity and how just this sparked and took up so much attention. That doesn't include all of this coverage, doesn't include the New York Times story, because the city's media reporting system doesn't include distributions or media outlets that have paywalls. So Express News has a paywall, the New York Times has a paywall, so it's even larger. And it's exciting for us because we offer, through the San Antonio Public Library, free access to the New York Times. So we were able to log in and gift that article out to folks because we have access to it. So that was an additional bonus for us. We kept sharing, oh, well, you have access to it. Let's show you how to get signed up. So that was helpful as well. So we are thrilled with it. Regarding the Read Like Wimby display, we had 50 titles featured, both on physical books and also digital books as well. And it was either checked out, they were either checked out or placed on hold a total of 593 times since the campaign went live in May. So we, have continued interest. I visited a couple branch libraries during this time. They had their own displays set up in their own unique way. So depending on which location you went to, there was different Spurs activities happening to promote Spurs reading in the library. So we're very excited with this, and we're already thinking of ways, should future playoffs happen, that we'll be able to engage again.
Or Randall?
I just have a comment, or maybe it is a question. So how can we get the Spurs players' public library cards and get pictures of that? Because if we're promoting the circulation and the use and things like that, maybe we want to push that a little bit more of, you're a San Antonio resident here. When you play here, you're already part of the family, be part of the public library type thing. And I mean, that goes to that's our only big sport, so.
We're definitely looking at that for, as we move forward. We realize that the playoff time and, all the hype and everything that happened maybe wasn't the best time for us to engage in that specific attention. So we are definitely have it on a list. We're working through various contacts to see ways that we can achieve that.
I'd like to say thank you for taking advantage of this opportunity. It makes the library even more part of the community by participating in the enthusiasms of our residents, and I thought it was an outstanding run for the library as well as for the Spurs. And I have a question for Randall. Do we get any kind of reporting on usage of the apps that we're providing, like Canopy or Live Homework Help or anything like that? Do we know how that pass-through is going?
Actually, for Canopy in particular, that usage is included as part of circulation, because every time there's a video played on Canopy, that's counted as a checkout. That is included. For online homework help, that's what we call like a database resource. So there are metrics for databases. They're not included in this report, but those are possible. You're welcome.
Sounds like the databases is something that at least twice a year we should get an update on. So I'd like to request that for our next board meeting. And I'm going to add on to that request. I'd also like to ask that the mobile hotspots, once you start reporting on them, can be added to the monthly report just broken out for digital circulation and for total hours of Wi-Fi, so we can kind of monitor that pilot program and see how it's progressing. Thank you. Other comments or questions for Randall or Jessica? Okay, I think I'll just make a comment. Thank you for the updates. It's always good to take a look at our performance and see if there's anything that needs to be adjusted. And regarding the social media and the marketing engagement, the fact that the New York Times numbers aren't there, I mean, it's got to be astronomical, because I feel like everyone I meet has a New York Times app and they have it on their phone, and so there's definitely a lot of reach there. So we'll have to ask our friends and our foundation partners if there's any ins into the Spurs Foundation, or the Spurs Foundation or the Spurs organization, so we can get ready for the next season. Thank you, Jessica, and thank you, Randall, for that. We already heard about the planning and development process for the bond, which was item number 19. So we'll go to our last item, which is to review and consider approval of the San Antonio Public Library circulation policy. And I believe Dale will present this.
Your monthly policy item. And I really do want to thank the Ad hoc Policy Committee, because it is a lot of work and a lot to think about. So this policy you received it in your packet, you have it in your iPad, you also have it, I think, on cream-colored paper in your packet. So there's a couple things I want to say, just an introduction to this. In the new standards for library accreditation in the state of Texas, they did a couple things really that are changed. One is they reduced the number of unique service hours, so okay, that'll make it easier for us to meet that, not that we've had a challenge recently. And then they also said that public libraries in Texas had to have 4 policies approved by their governing bodies, whatever that governing body might be. The other 3, collection development, technology use, and information security and privacy, you all have approved those policies in the past. We already have them. And then the other one was circulation, which we did not have. So this is an entirely new policy. We had most of the elements that they said we had either in other policies or just, of course, in our practices. What I really want to focus on are a couple things that are different and a couple items, and then, take questions and then we'll move from there. So the purpose is, in part, of course, to meet that state standard. That makes sense. And then also to have a board-approved policy related to circulation. That's a good idea, whether the state had asked for it or not. As we reviewed this with the policy committee and also at Secret's suggestion, one of the things that currently we extend a free public library card for the San Antonio Public Library to anyone who lives in our service area or who owns property, etc. But if someone goes to school or works in a school that's in Bexar County, but the student or the teacher or school nurse lives outside of Bexar County, they're currently not eligible for a free library card. So that is a suggestion. This would be an actual change. This is not something we do now. So this is, you'll see that in the eligibility part in this policy, that it has an addition of students who attend a school in the service area. So that would be the school is in Bexar County, but the student doesn't live in Bexar County. This is not many people, but it would certainly be easier for the librarian visiting the school, to not have to figure out. And then we, the policy committee, spent a little time talking about, we originally had said teachers. And then we looked at the state of Texas has a definition of a teacher. And for those of you who work in education, you will be amused or not to know that that includes superintendents and principals, but it doesn't go down, it only goes up. So the policy committee asked that we change that to say school district employees, rather than use this definition of teachers, which was a little bit awkward. So again, this wouldn't probably apply to a whole lot of people, but it will, I think, be a good thing if you all approve it. The other thing I really want to just point out, at least since the early 90s, and we really can't verify how long, the San Antonio Public Library has issued library cards to minors without their parents present if the minor has the other eligibility requirements. So that is to say, if they have photo ID and address verification. This isn't a lot of students, or a lot of minors, but it is something we've been doing for a long time. So in this policy, we just say that we do that, but I do want to highlight it because it isn't particularly common. I did review this with Christina. We don't see any particular concern about that, but I did want to highlight it to you because it is not common in other libraries. I don't think any other urban library in Texas does that. When I checked in with our branches, it's not something they do very often, but once in a while, someone will come in whose parents really are unable or unwilling to come into the library, and so they do occasionally issue cards in that regards. So those to me are the things that are different. The other parts of this policy, for example, the parts that, I'm going to just look at it for a second. The confidentiality of library records, that's repeating a policy that you as a board have already approved. The library fees, while we don't necessarily have that in any other policy, you all this board did take action when we went fine-free, and City Council sets the library fees annually in the city budget process anyway. And then the last section, section 5, repeats things that, for example, that parents and guardians, not staff, are responsible for monitoring and approving minors' use of the library, and then this other item about minors being able to receive a card. So that's a policy in a nutshell. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'm sure members of the committee would be happy to as well if needed.
Well, this is an action item, so we can start with a motion in order to enter into a period of discussion.
I'll motion to adopt the library circulation policy as presented and amended.
Second.
Question under good standing. Patrons that have been blocked from physical item checkout due to patron code of conduct violations, does that mean they can still check out digital materials?
Yes. Yes, if someone has had some kind of violation at the library such that they're not allowed to come into the building or come onto the grounds, they are still allowed to use the library digitally unless their card expires, because then currently they would need to come into the library to renew their card. That is something we tell people in that case, that we're not actually, like, they still can check out an ebook.
So in looking at the school district employee, do we follow up with that employee if they were to leave the job, let's say, and move on somewhere else? How do we refresh the database for that?
Right, so the how, we would have to work out the procedures, because this would be new for us. I can say, because I've worked in 2 other libraries that did this, what we did for school employee cards like this, where the person doesn't live in the service area, is we issued the card to expire in 1 year. And so then as the person renewed it, they would just show that verification again. And we just didn't worry about what happened during that year because, of course, as I think most of us know, many school employees have annual contracts anyway. So we haven't worked out exactly that detail, but we would do something like that.
Thank you for that answer. It's very prudent to have an expiration date, and then the onus and responsibilities are.
I have a related question, so I'm going to ask it related to that school, someone who works at a school employee. Was there any investigation into what the cost impact of this would be? Because obviously the taxpayer, the patrons that live within the city are paying for the service, right? Not directly, but through the city budget.
Sure. So we really weren't able to, we did some looking around with Texas Education Agency and, we really aren't able to see, we couldn't figure out how many people this is very easily. We don't believe it's very many particularly, but no. So the short answer to your question is no, because we weren't able to figure out how many people that would be.
And do you have any I understand the operations of this haven't been fully thought through or put to paper yet, but do you have any ideas for how we would monitor that so that we'd want to know if it was like an undue burden, right?
Right. We would create a borrower class, like we have a borrower class, adult or non-resident. We would create a borrower class. So then we would be able, like we do with the Bexar County residents who live in Bexar County but not in San Antonio, we would be able to track statistics, how many people had cards, how much they used the library, and so on.
Comments, just more clarifications. I thought maybe Beth would make a few of these, but since she has a keen eye normally. But I have a question. So for under minor, it says a person under 18 years of age who is not and has not been married. Does marital status change whether you're deemed a minor?
It does. So that definition is directly from the Texas Family Code. We did have a different definition of minor, but as Christina and I were talking literally today, we thought, maybe we should double check the Texas Family Code. And when we did, I knew that, but I hadn't really thought about it often. So we were thinking about legally emancipated minors, but in the state of Texas, once you are married, whatever your age is, you are no longer legally a minor. And that is true if you're widowed or divorced as well. Hopefully there's not a lot of widows who are married under 18, but that person is still legally an adult and should be treated as an adult.
We're probably missing a couple commas in there. Could you just make an update to that as appropriate?
Sure.
And on the next page.
I will just say I agree that commas could be clarifying, but that is just a copy and paste from the administrative code.
We'll aim to be better grammatically than others.
I'm not disagreeing. That's why I said they would add clarity.
And then the service area, the definition here says served by San Antonio Public Library as determined by its governing bodies. Can we add to that and active agreement so that those that live within Bexar County, as long as we have an active ILA agreement, can be included within that? Thank you. And then my last comment was on Section 4, account fees. It says 4A, the San Antonio Public Library does not charge fines for overdue items, but we do charge fines for lost and damaged items, and I think maybe appending that so that it's clear that there can be accrual of fines, like there can be some reason that money is due for our patron.
We thought that 4C covered that, but we could definitely add it also in 4A and just make it maybe a little clearer?
Just to make it clear that there is a charge of a fine. Yes, C says patrons are responsible for the cost of lost and damaged items, but I just feel like somewhere it should say a fine would be placed onto an account, so it's
Right.
clear that there is some
Sure, like a
money
fee.
Yeah. Yes.
Dale, I had a question on Section 5, access to library materials by minors, where it talks about behavior, sort of like behaviors. Parents or guardians are responsible for monitoring and approving the minors' use of the library. Is there a need to refer back to the other policy that talks about behavioral expectations? Or is that just?
Use of the library by minors? We could have, like we have other references to other policies, we certainly could point back to that other policy.
Well, I know that it's about materials, but it does say monitoring use of the library. That says behaviors to me, right? Am I right? Or am I just reading too much into it?
It's meant to be conveying, the materials and that the minor uses the library, right? That the minor uses the library is really up to the parent. One thing I think we could do is, we have a couple other references to other policies you have approved. We have a whole policy on minors' use of the library, so we could point back to that policy like we have to these others, and I think that would add clarity there, because this is really not meant to cover every detail at all.
Question for members of the ad hoc policy committee. This use of the term approving, was that something that was discussed in your committee meeting? Like, was approving considered an important word, or I'm wondering if it should just be parents or guardians are responsible for monitoring their minors' use of the library, and
I
the
think
approving
that's-
almost seems like
I think
an
that's
action.
equally clear.
I don't think that word came up at all in. So nothing that we're like holding to heart if there is a suggestion to change it.
I would like to note that there seems to be an idea among some members of the public that library staff are responsible for taking inappropriate materials out of the hands of minors. And for that reason, I would recommend keeping approving in there, that parents, that it's not library staff's job to disapprove of something that a minor might be reading or looking at.
I think it's equally clear either way, so whichever way you all want it to be, we can have it be that way. And really, the focus of this policy is meant to be circulation. So I think, that's meant to be the focus, is this checking the material out. It's really not meant to be about general use of the library.
She doesn't want anyone to think that the library's responsible. Yeah. Okay, if there's no other questions or comments, we can take a roll call vote. Thank you, Dale.
Let me just make sure I'm clear. Approving in, approving?
It's staying as is, yeah.
In, okay. Just wanted to make sure I didn't accidentally change it.
Just a question if the motion needs to be amended to say as amended.
That's a great suggestion, yeah. Would you like to make a new motion?
I actually did that when I read it. I put as presented or as amended.
Okay. You can just make it again for us, yeah.
No problem. I move to adopt the library circulation policy as amended.
Carla Gargiulo is absent. Joanne Harris? Yes. Josie Martinez?
Aye.
Andrea Sanchez Muniz?
Aye.
Mary Ann Valdez Hernandez?
Aye.
Fernanda Cardenas is absent. Michelle Douglas Robledo,
Aye.
Bert Quintanilla,
Yes.
Beth Graham,
Aye.
Judy Cruz is absent, Jaspreet Kaur.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And that is our last agenda item, so I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Have a great week.